Today, Bitcoin and Ether get a boost as the nation's unemployment rate ticks lower. A federal judge rules Changpeng Zhao has to stay in the U.S. until he's sentenced for violating money laundering rules. And Ben Schiller discusses the biggest game changers in crypto in 2023. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Jordan Smith. Major cryptocurrencies ending the week flat. As of noon Eastern, Bitcoin rose slightly, trading around $43,800. Ether rose less than 0.5%, trading close to $2,400. And Binance's BNB token rose nearly 1% as the unemployment rate fell more than expected to 3.7%. For the week, Bitcoin and Ether are both up more than 12% as the crypto rally gained steam, while on Wall Street, the S&P remained flat. Okay, let's talk about the top stories. A bipartisan group of senators are introducing a bill to tamp down on bad actors using crypto to evade sanctions. The Terrorism Financing Prevention Act will expand U.S. sanctions to cover transactions, including digital asset payments, to groups designated by the U.S. as terrorist organizations. That includes Hamas. Right now, those sanctions only apply to a small group of actors, like Hezbollah. The bill was written by Republicans Mitt Romney of Utah and Mike Rounds of South Dakota, alongside Democrats Jack Reed of Rhode Island and Mark Warner of Virginia. In the bill's announcement, Senator Romney said the new rules would, quote, equip the Treasury Department with additional resources to counter terrorism and address emerging threats involving digital assets. Next, a federal judge says Binance's founder, Changpeng Zhao, can't leave the U.S. In a ruling on Thursday, Judge Richard Jones said that CZ has to remain stateside until his sentencing for anti-money laundering violations he pleaded guilty to last month. The latest decision comes after a judge previously ruled he could return to the UAE. Zhao faces up to 18 months in prison, and Binance had to pay more than $4 billion for its role in sanctions violations and more. All right, CoinDesk just put out its list of the most influential people in crypto for 2023. For our main story, I spoke to managing editor Ben Schiller about that list and the biggest crypto trends this year. CoinDesk just published its most influential list of 2023. There are many notable names in there, and I do want to talk about specific names in just a moment, but let's just start by having you walk me through the theme of this year. When there was so much upheaval in crypto markets, you even mentioned SBF for one. What was the focus when breaking down this year in crypto into 50 people?
Yeah, so these are the 50 people that we think defined the year in crypto. So we look for the major themes and storylines, and then the people attached to those storylines. And obviously this year, after last year with all the crises with FTX, Celsius, and Three Arrows and others, there was a feeling that the industry was a bit of a mess and there needs to be a kind of retrenchment, a transition from that period. And I think we've seen that latterly in this year. So that would be one of the themes. But meanwhile, there were a lot of people quietly building for the future, and we saw a number of new storylines come onto the scene that are reflected in the list. For instance, staking. So we have Lido DAO there in the top 10. That was a big kind of liquid staking player, real world assets, and also the kind of movement of TradFi or Wall Street into the crypto space. And you're seeing this kind of hybridization of crypto into a crypto native industry and now more of a TradFi industry. And that's reflected with a number of names on the list. So for instance, Larry Fink, who's the long-term CEO of BlackRock, for instance, is on the list, because that company has announced plans for an ETF. So it's part of the kind of transition in the industry.
Let's stick with that idea of 2023 was the year to build, especially in the midst of a so-called crypto winter. When you were making this list this year, did it strike you how many people came from the idea of TradFi or the broader market versus someone who was really crypto focused? How does this year compare to some previous years of the most influential?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we've been doing this 10 years, this list. It's been going since 2014, and I've done like 5 of them now. And it's very noticeable how the names sort of stay the same. Some of them, like Vitalik Buterin, for instance, founder of Ethereum, has appeared 4 times. But a number of the names are very new this year. So, I mentioned TradFi. PayPal, it's not exactly TradFi because it kind of came up in the dot-com era, but it's kind of a Silicon Valley TradFi company, and they launched a stablecoin this year. So we represented the leader of that initiative on the list. That could have a substantial bearing on the future of payments, we believe, because of this stablecoin product that PayPal is putting out. It's going to go to 450 million people around the world. PayPal's in 200 countries. So this is kind of crypto moving on from a kind of a relatively small scale niche crypto finance industry to a much more broader based industry that is TradFi, that has ETFs, does things like the PayPal stablecoin. It's becoming much more established and widespread.
Yeah, I have to bring up Gary Gensler. I mean, he made the top 10, and I suppose if you look at it, it's not that surprising given how much his name has been spoken in the same breath as crypto this year. But walk me through that decision and what he means for the crypto industry in 2023.
Well, talking very frankly, we didn't really want to put Gary Gensler on the list because he was on the list last year, and he's kind of an obvious choice. But then we kind of felt like we really had to put him on the list because, the SEC investigations and enforcement actions against major players like Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, and others was really a big theme of the year, and it really kind of put the willies up the industry really, and scared a lot of people. And people are still worried about the kind of rather arbitrary enforcement of securities laws coming from Gary Gensler, and he was really kind of a force unto his own. And a lot of people think he has political ambitions, and that's maybe feeding some of these enforcement actions. He's looking to make a name for himself. So we couldn't really leave him off the list, although we did consider a lot of other regulators and legislators that we could have nominated as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you mentioned the trend in 2023 of really sort of a whiplash from how strictly the SEC came down at the beginning of the year to some of the court cases that actually won against the SEC toward the end of the year. And if I'm thinking about one of those names, it would be Brad Garlinghouse, who was also on the list this year. But taking him as an example of a broader trend, how did opposition to the SEC's enforcement action or success in court really play into the list this year?
Yeah, that's a great question again. So, I mean, it was interesting because you kind of got two sides of this. On the one hand, you had the regulators, bringing their actions, but then you also had a trend of companies fighting back and in some cases winning. So the case that you're talking about here is Ripple and the sale of XRP. It's a very long-running 5-year case that the SEC brought that was finalized in court this year in Manhattan. And it was a partial victory for Ripple, but it was actually seen as a victory for Ripple and for the industry, and on the key question about whether tokens are securities. And the judge in that case ruled that in some cases, tokens like XRP are not securities, so they're not under the behest or the imprimatur of the SEC regulator. So that's a big deal and could have a lot of ramifications for the industry going forward. And actually, Brad Garlinghouse was one of our NFT picks. So 50 names on the list, 10 of the names got their special NFT that we commissioned from some artists. And his NFT is quite remarkable. I think check it out on CoinDesk.com. It shows him on top of a horse leading this army, the XRP army, into battle. And that was very much the feeling with that case. It was kind of the crypto army striking back against the powers that be this year. And there's no better example of that than Ripple and Garlinghouse and XRP.
Yeah, one of the other people that had an NFT, if I'm correct, is Sam Altman of OpenAI and WorldCoin. And I want to ask you, what is the relationship of AI to crypto this year, especially in regards to the list? I mean, I feel like there were conversations that were had about whether AI was taking some of the air out of the room when it comes to conversations around crypto and the hype around crypto. But Sam Altman made the list. So can you talk about that relationship this year?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there were a lot of VC dollars that might have gone into crypto that ended up going into AI, and that spooked some people in the industry. I mean, Altman's really on the list because he represents the trend of AI really taking off this year. And there's some questions as to what that means for crypto going forward. But I mean, so far, a lot of people talk about blockchain technology being a governance model for AI to track data going through AI systems and allowing us to understand what's going on better. There are a number of startups out there that have AI tokens or AI dictated tokens. That's another example of how there's convergence between the two. And also Altman's on the list because of this WorldCoin project, which is a highly ambitious project to bring tokens to the whole world and have an identity system that's on a blockchain, and for the project to distribute a universal basic income. So it's a very ambitious but quite controversial project, that WorldCoin. So that's why he's on the list. And we had to represent the AI trend somehow on the list because it was a big deal this year, and he seemed like the best candidate to do that.
Yeah. Final question. I'm not sure you've started putting together the 2024 list quite yet, but I am curious, what do you think is the most important thing or most influential thing to watch in crypto in the coming weeks and early months of 2024?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The spot Bitcoin ETF possibility, which some people think will come in as early as January, will have a major impact on the market. This possibly will bring in millions of new people into the crypto industry, starting with Bitcoin and then other coins that will sort of follow from that. And also, I think we're going to see the kind of Wall Streetization, if I can put it like that, of crypto. I mean, Wall Street's going to look to develop its own products for consumers, which will have that kind of branding of crypto on it, and so it won't come from a crypto native industry so much. They will be kind of sanitized, if you like, from a kind of Wall Street point of view. So I think we're going to see a lot of kind of smarter, rebranded crypto projects brought to market by these mainstream financial companies.
All right, that's all for Crypto World this week. We'll be back on Monday, and we'll see you then.